right. So, hey, everyone, and welcome back. Today, we're going to be doing, well, it's a deep dive into this whole Elon Musk thing.
Yeah.
And we're using this YouTube video called Elon Musk is Losing His Mind. And I mean, it really does make you wonder, is he actually, like, losing it? Or is there something else going on?
I mean, I'll give them this. That title is very provocative. Definitely gets you interested.
Yeah.
But we're going to be breaking down the claims in the video and examining the specific events.
Okay.
And look at some of the different perspectives about Elon Musk and his behavior.
Okay, so it starts off with Elon. He considers himself a hardcore gamer.
Right.
And he hit a high rank in this game, Path of Exile 2, which I don't know if you're familiar with the game.
I'm not.
But it's not an easy game to play. It takes a lot of skill and dedication to get to that level.
No, you can't just pick it up and do it overnight.
Right.
And this is where it gets interesting, because then they bring in this streamer, Quinn69, and he starts going through the footage of Elon's gameplay.
Right.
And raises some eyebrows, some skepticism around.
Yeah, and Quinn is he does like analysis of these games.
Right.
And he's like a pretty legit guy.
Yeah.
And so when he points out these things,
right,
it's pretty eye-opening. So for instance, there's points where Elon seems completely lost.
Yeah.
Like he's never even played the game before.
Mm-hmm.
And there's even a clip where he's struggling to use this thing called the map device, which is like, if you know the game, this is like the most basic thing.
Yeah,
you have to
yeah.
know how to operate.
And it almost seems like he doesn't even understand the basic mechanics of the game at all. Like,
right.
And that really makes you think, is this a case of boosting?
Okay, so boosting, for people who know, what is boosting?
Well, boosting is when somebody else plays on your account to artificially inflate your rank in whatever game you're playing.
Wow.
It happens, actually, more than you think.
Really?
And it's a pretty controversial practice.
Oh, I'm sure.
In the gaming community.
Yeah, so we're talking about potentially someone was playing on Elon's account.
Right.
And he was taking credit for this really high ranking.
Yeah. And I mean, if you're the type of person that's really competitive and you're touting yourself as this amazing gamer, but then it turns out you're not, there's sort of a lack of authenticity.
Right. Yeah.
A little bit of ego involved potentially.
Well, I mean, and this all begs the question. So what was Elon's response to this?
So initially, he kind of deflected with humor, made some jokes about like a Chinese alter ego playing for him.
Oh, okay.
But then he started kind of lashing out at his critics.
Oh, really?
Specifically called out Asmongold, who's another streamer.
Right.
And actually leaked private messages.
Oh.
Between him and Asmongold. So a little bit of bit of an attack there.
So he goes from like joking to kind of going on the attack.
Yeah, and that really kind of, I think, highlights a bit of a power imbalance there, right?
Yeah.
You've got this billionaire CEO versus a content creator. So is that proportionate, Is he using his platform to kind of silence the dissent?
Right. Yeah.
That's a really interesting question.
And that kind of leads into this whole Twitter thing.
Well, yeah, and speaking of platforms, right, this is where things start to get really interesting because...
Well, we were talking about Twitter before.
That's true.
But you're talking about this Dave Chappelle...
The Dave Chappelle show,
Twitter thing, yeah.
So he makes this appearance during the show.
Right, and he gets booed.
He gets booed, and his reaction is not what you'd expect from someone who's usually so calculated with his public image.
Right.
He goes on Twitter and calls the audience San Francisco's unhinged leftists, which is, I mean, it's a pretty loaded statement, especially considering that he claimed to have received a 90% cheer ratio from the crowd, which a lot of people just didn't buy that.
Yeah, I mean, there was video footage.
There's video footage, yeah. Oh, wow. And it really seemed like there was a pretty decent amount of booing.
Yeah.
So yeah, a lot of people didn't really believe that.
It seemed like a real turning point in terms of how people were perceiving him.
Yeah, I think that's right. And it's not just about his business ventures anymore or his eccentric personality. It's now about his behavior and how he uses his platform.
Right.
And I think it's also important to point out this is not an isolated incident.
Right.
Remember the all the alleged concern from employees about his mental state after that incident, or the suspension of all those journalist accounts.
Oh yeah.
that were critical of him.
And then the poll.
And then the poll about whether he should reinstate them.
Oh my.
Yeah, it was wild for a while there.
It was.
It really felt like a constant stream of controversy.
Yeah.
And, what does freedom of speech really mean on Twitter now under Elon's leadership? Is there actually room for dissent, or is it all about controlling the narrative?
Yeah.
And it's not just about Twitter either. You think about when he tweeted about needing more skilled immigrants because he couldn't find enough engineers.
Oh, yeah. This was right after.
This was right after massive layoffs
Yeah.
at Twitter, and it caused a huge uproar.
Yeah.
A lot of people pointed out, he's kind of ignoring the struggles of qualified American graduates, especially in STEM fields.
Yeah.
And how does he respond? He tells people to fuck themselves in the face.
It's not really the picture of a composed leader, right?
Right, and it just seems like this is just a pattern with him. This
it does feel like
aversion to any criticism, and a tendency to use his platform to retaliate.
Yeah.
And this brings us to, I think, a pretty pivotal incident in 2018, the Thai cave rescue, which I think for a lot of people was a bit of a turning point in terms of how they viewed Elon Musk.
Right. So he offered to help out with this rescue effort.
Yeah. So these boys were trapped in a cave, and he offered to build a mini submarine to help get them out.
Right. Which seemed like, at the time.
Yeah, it seemed like a very helpful,
nice gesture.
Yeah.
But then a British cave diver, Vernon Unsworth, he kind of criticized this idea, said it was impractical and just kind of attention seeking.
Mm-hmm.
And Elon did not like that.
That's an understatement.
Yeah.
He went on a full-on Twitter tirade.
Yeah.
Calling Unsworth a petter guy. And then later doubled down on this in emails accusing him of being a child rapist.
Oh, my gosh.
It was shocking to see that level of vitriol, especially considering, Unsworth had actually been instrumental in the rescue efforts.
Yeah.
It went beyond just words, It had real-world consequences. Unsworth actually sued him for defamation.
Wow.
And while Elon ultimately won the lawsuit, the whole thing really just cemented this image of him as impulsive and vindictive. So
this is years before
Twitter.
The whole Twitter takeover.
Mm-hmm.
But we're already seeing this kind of behavior.
Right. This pattern is starting to emerge.
It makes you wonder, is this really who Elon Musk is?
Yeah, I think it's an important question. But before we go any further, I think it's worth, remembering that Elon Musk is a complex individual.
Sure.
He's a brilliant innovator, a risk taker, and someone who's accomplished incredible things.
Yeah, of course.
So I think it's we're not trying to dismiss his accomplishments.
Right.
But I think it's important to look at this pattern of behavior.
Right. And there's this one more thing that I think is worth mentioning. It's this Reddit comment.
Oh, yeah.
That I think really kind of sums it up. It says,
"Lay it on me."
Okay. It's simple. He no longer has anyone telling him no and has unchecked resources and power. When he made a massive mistake and released the garbage Cybertruck, this person's obviously
a little biased.
Not a fan of the Cybertruck that had a myriad of issues and cost Tesla lots of money. He still got a $50 billion plus pay package from him.
Mm-hmm.
Even when he blew a ton of money on Twitter and sank its value and continues to hemorrhage money, he still got what he wanted out of it. And ultimately, he never ever suffers any comeuppance. This leads to someone who believes they are untouchable because basically he is, and thus his actions are more erratic and extreme. Why not? Nothing bad will come of it ever anyway.
Wow, that's something.
Yeah.
But I think it does raise some really interesting points about accountability and power dynamics and the potential consequences of, this unchecked ambition. But I think it's also important to remember that we're only seeing this, a snapshot of Elon Musk's life.
Right.
We don't know the full story.
Of course.
The inner workings of his mind.
Yeah.
The pressures he faces. So.
Okay. So where do we go from here? We've kind of gone through.
We've done a lot.
This gaming thing, his behavior on Twitter, the incident with the Thai cave rescue.
Yeah.
It's a pretty complicated picture, right?
Yeah. I think we need to dig a little deeper into some of these incidents and see what they reveal about Elon Musk,
right?
The man behind the myth,
yeah.
And maybe we can start to understand why he does some of the things he does.
All right, buckle up, everybody.
Oh,
Because we're going deeper
deeper we go.
into the world of Elon Musk.
That's right.
Well-
So, welcome back. Before the break, we were looking at this Reddit comment that argued that Elon Musk's behavior, it stems from this lack of accountability.
Right.
And it's a fascinating idea because it really gets at the heart of how we view these successful figures. Like, do we hold them to a different standard?
Right. Right. Does success somehow shield people
Yeah.
from consequences from
Big good question.
yeah. And speaking of things that Elon seems to be very sensitive about,
Oh, okay.
let's talk about Tesla's self-driving technology, autopilot.
Ah, yes, autopilot.
Yeah.
He's repeatedly said that it's safer
Right.
than human drivers.
Safer than human drivers, yeah.
But then you have these incidents, some with pretty serious consequences that make you question those claims.
Yeah, I mean, there was that incident where a Tesla on autopilot crashed into a parked fire truck,
Right.
and then another one where a Tesla failed to stop at a red light and ended up in a fatal collision.
Right. And despite these, incidents, Elon often downplays the severity, even suggesting that, drivers are misusing the technology. It's almost like he has this real difficulty acknowledging flaws
Yeah.
in his creations.
Yeah, it's interesting this defensiveness, this inability to accept any type of criticism.
Yeah.
It really seems to be like a recurring theme
It does.
with his
Yeah.
with his behavior.
Yeah.
Like remember when he called that Tesla critic a liar and a frog just because the guy was raising some concerns about autopilot safety?
Yep. And I think it speaks to this larger pattern we've been discussing,
Right?
this aversion to criticism and
Yeah.
using his platform to attack those who question him.
Yeah.
And it's important to remember, like, his words, they carry weight.
Yeah.
A single tweet can send Tesla's stock soaring or plummeting, and that has an impact, a real impact on people's lives.
It's like he's playing with people's livelihoods, like he's using his platform to kind of manipulate the market, to silence opposition.
Yeah, it really does raise the question of, is there an element of recklessness
Right.
in his actions, this disregard for the potential consequences?
Yeah, and it's not just his his business ventures either, right? I mean, we saw this on Twitter too. I mean, that incident where he mocked the disabled Tesla employee who had criticized the working conditions at the company. That was pretty messed up.
Yeah, I think that one really rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. And it's like, here you have this person in a position of immense power, and he's publicly belittling an employee who's simply voicing their concerns. It
Right.
just felt like a real abuse of power.
Yeah, and just makes you wonder, like, what is motivating this kind of behavior? I mean, is it just ego? Is it just like a need to be right all the time?
There's this psychological concept called narcissistic supply, which refers to the way some individuals they gain a sense of validation, a sense of self-worth from the attention they get, whether it's positive or negative.
Oh, okay. So you're saying, like, he might actually be feeding off this negativity, that
It's puffy.
fueling his ego.
It's possible, and if that's the case, then it really raises concerns about his ability to lead effectively, to make rational decisions when faced with criticism or setbacks.
Right. It's like he's trapped in this feedback loop, constantly seeking validation, but pushing away anybody who challenges him.
Yeah, it's an interesting phenomenon, and I think the really concerning thing is that this behavior is becoming increasingly normalized.
Right.
People are starting to accept it as part of his, like, eccentric genius persona.
Right. This idea that, well, he's brilliant, so that somehow excuses
Yeah, it's okay.
this behavior.
Right, but at what point does eccentricity cross the line and become something harmful?
Right. And that's the question.
It is the question.
Isn't it? Yeah, and it's the question that we need to be asking ourselves as we navigate this world. It's increasingly being shaped by these, powerful individuals like Elon Musk.
It's true because, I mean, the stakes are high. We're talking about someone who has the potential to really shape the future of technology, space exploration, even how we interact with the world around us.
Right.
And if ego and a need for validation are driving his decisions, I mean, the consequences could be massive.
Yeah, it's a lot to think about, and it really does make you wonder, are we doing enough as a society to hold these figures accountable?
Yeah.
Or are we just enabling their worst impulses by looking the other way?
it's a tough question, and it goes beyond just Elon Musk. It's a question we need to be asking about anybody who wields significant power and influence. How do we make sure they're using it responsibly?
Yeah. Yeah, and how do we create a culture where it's okay to question those in power, where criticism is met with actual dialogue and not just hostility and retaliation?
It's a great question, and I don't know if we have all the answers, but I think this deep dive has given the listeners some food for thought.
Right.
It's really important to look at the actions of those in positions of power and understand the potential impact of their choices.
Yeah, we've covered a lot today.
Yeah, we have.
And it's been pretty intense, this journey into the world of Elon Musk.
It has.
But I think it's important to also acknowledge, like, this is just one perspective, one interpretation of events.
Right. Yeah. And we've really kind of focused on some of the negative stuff, but I mean, he has done some pretty amazing things.
He has. He's really revolutionized the electric car industry with Tesla.
Right.
Pushing the boundaries of space exploration with SpaceX.
Yeah.
And challenging conventional thinking in a lot of ways.
These are not small feats, and they've had a positive impact on the world.
Yeah, it's so easy to get caught up in the controversies and kind of lose sight of the bigger picture. Like, the guy has literally sent rockets into space and brought them back down to land again.
Yeah, I mean, it's incredible what they're doing.
And his companies have created thousands of jobs. They've fostered innovation and really pushed the limits of what's technologically possible.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's important to acknowledge those achievements, even as we kind of scrutinize his behavior.
Absolutely.
So how do we reconcile these two sides of Elon Musk? The visionary leader who inspires millions, but then also this kind of impulsive, sometimes volatile individual, who seems to not really care about the consequences of his actions.
Yeah, I mean, that's the challenge, isn't it? I think it's a reminder that even the most brilliant minds are still human. They have flaws, insecurities, a capacity for both great and destructive actions.
And maybe there's a lesson here for all of us. I mean, what can we learn from observing someone like Elon Musk, both his successes and his shortcomings?
That's a great question. Maybe it's a cautionary tale about the dangers of unchecked power.
Right.
The importance of holding those in positions of authority accountable and the need for, greater self-awareness and empathy, especially for those who seem to have it all.
It's also a reminder that success doesn't make you immune from criticism.
Right.
In fact, it often brings more scrutiny.
Absolutely.
And how we respond to that criticism, it really says a lot about our character.
It does. Do we, engage in a constructive dialogue?
Yeah.
Do we acknowledge our mistakes?
Yeah.
Do we strive to do better? Or do we lash out, deflect blame, double down on those actions even when they're clearly harmful? These are questions that we all face.
Right.
Regardless of our position or level of influence.
It's a lot to think about.
It is.
So where do we go from here?
Yeah.
I mean, we've examined his this gaming controversy, his behavior on Twitter, the incident with the Thai cave rescue, his kind of volatile reactions to any kind of criticism. What does this all mean for Elon Musk?
Right.
What does this mean for his companies, for the industries that he's disrupting?
I mean, that's the big question, isn't it? Only time will tell how this story unfolds. Will he learn from his past? Will he mature as a leader and use his influence for good? Or will his impulsive behavior and ego ultimately be his downfall?
I mean, it's a story that's still being written.
Absolutely.
But one thing's for sure, it's a story that we can't ignore.
You can't ignore.
It raises all these questions about the role of technology in our lives, the power dynamics between individuals and these massive corporations. And the responsibilities that come with this kind of success,
Absolutely. And as always, the most important question is, what do you think?
Right.
What insights have you gained from this deep dive into Elon Musk's behavior?
Yeah.
We encourage you to keep exploring this topic, consider the complexities of his character, and form your own conclusions.
Well, hey, thanks everybody for joining us on this wild ride through the world of Elon Musk.
It's been a journey.
It has been a journey. And remember, keep learning, keep questioning, and keep those brain cells fired.
That's right.